to Watch is an intimate look into the lives of prominent and influential women leaders from around the world and the challenges they faced on their journey. It's the real story behind her title. Join us every week to hear more stories about women from around the world and in your own communities at womentowatch.net. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another week of Women to Watch. I'm Sue Rocco. Thanks so much for being with me this week. Joining me in just a moment will be Cheryl Ecton. And Cheryl is the founder and CEO of Elite Building Services, which is a national commercial building maintenance company. She has such a great story. She launched this company at a very, very young age, and today has seen great success with over 1,000 employees. So I'm excited to talk to Cheryl. Don't forget to stay with us during the breaks, where you'll hear from our exclusive watch team of corporate partners. And be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well at W2W Media. So now I'm very honored and excited to welcome to the show, Cheryl Ecton. Cheryl, hi, and welcome to the show.
Thank you. Nice to be here with you, Susan.
Can you tell our audience where you're joining us from?
Right now, I'm joining you from my home in Mullica Hill, New Jersey.
Okay. Oh, well, you're close by.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So listen, I would love to start off the interview and learn a little bit more about where you came from, a little bit about your hometown and your upbringing.
Well, my upbringing, I lived in a lot of different places when I was younger. My family kind of kept our home base in Southern California. And in my teenage years, we moved out here to the East Coast, lived in the Aston, Pennsylvania area. My dad, his job took us to the East Coast, and we kind of settled in there. I got married pretty much right out of high school, and I married a guy from California. We thought we were going to move right back to California, started having a family. And at that point, it's difficult to move when your immediate family is here and your support system is here. So we stayed put in the area.
Okay. And tell me a little bit about the school that you went to, high school.
High school, I went in Delaware to a private school. It was a Christian school, religious school, and I was there from about probably 10th grade through my senior year. So,
Okay. Was it all girls? Was it an all
no,
girls
no, it was
academy?
co-ed.
No.
No, it was co-ed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So.
do you think that, private schools have a little bit of a different style? They have different resources than public schools. Do you think that helped you with your career?
Well, you know, at the time where we were living, when we were living in Pennsylvania in the Aston area, the school district that we happened to be in was not really a great school district. So my parents decided to enroll us into the school. It was about a 45-minute commute. So it took a little bit of time to get there in the morning. And I think it was a much smaller school. There's advantages to smaller schools and there's disadvantages. When you're at a smaller private school, you're going to play what sports you have there, and it doesn't offer as much as a public school might offer. However, I also find with a smaller school, you kind of are, you become friends with everybody because, there's not a lot of different groups of people, and uh, they're not big classes. They're usually smaller classes. So you usually are a lot closer with your schoolmates in a smaller environment. So I didn't mind it. Sometimes private schools, they have a few more rules than the public schools, or so I thought as a young teenager. And but I think it was a good experience for me overall.
So it was a good fit then.
It was a good fit. Yeah.
Yeah. And tell me a little bit about what kind of activities were you involved in as a young girl? Because when I think about your story, Cheryl, and there's so much about your story is this ability to have the confidence to take risks over and over. And so I always like to kind of connect the dots between what you were doing when you were a young girl and where that developed in you, that amount of confidence.
Well, as a younger girl, I played everything that was out there. I did T-ball and then I played basketball. Loved playing basketball growing up. Did that probably till I was about in fifth or sixth grade. And then I switched to, when I got into high school, I switched to cheerleading and always wanted to be a cheerleader. I thought that was a really cool thing. And we got to go everywhere with the boys basketball team. So as a young girl, I thought that was appealing. And you know, I'll tell you, I was a shyer kid. When I was younger, I was much shyer. I think cheerleading helped build confidence. You were forced into being loud and being out there and supporting your team. And so I think that helped bring some confidence. And we had a small cheerleading team. It wasn't a big group of girls. So I think that kind of helped with confidence a little bit more.
So, I typically ask about challenges and what, as a young girl, when you look back, was hard for you. So, if you were shy, perhaps that is something that you struggled with. And of course, I think as we see more success, we start to find our voice a little bit more.
Yeah.
Um, what if I were to ask you, a challenge that you feel that was impactful when you were young? What would that be?
Well, I think the challenge for me was that because early on we did move around quite a bit for my father's job and being a little shyer, it put
Mm.
me in a position of me having to make the first move to make friends at school. When you join a school and you're the new kid, everybody has their set of friends and people have known each other for years. And you're not just going to just fit in right away, and it forces you to make that effort, to take that give you have to become a little bolder in making friends and meeting people. So I think it was a challenge, but it also taught me how to do, how to be a little bit more outgoing, because naturally I was shy, but it
Mhm.
kind of forced me into a place where I had to extend myself to people.
And you had to do that over and over again,
Over and
so
over.
not just
Yes,
once.
yes, yes. It was quite a bit, yeah, as I was younger. In high school, it stabilized and we stayed in the same area and there wasn't a move. But earlier on, there was.
And depending on the kids and the environment, where are they coming from? And are they open to meeting a new kid in school? Is that kind of cool and exciting?
Yeah.
Or are they closed off, right? They have their cliques. Call
And
the
growing up as a younger girl and looking back on it now, I really did find that kids were very accepting of a new person and I was able to fit in very well. And I was also able to make really good friends, and my siblings were able to do the same thing. So I think it was much easier when we were younger. Kids are a little more accepting. When you get into high school, I think that changes a little bit. People are more established with their friends. Maybe the new girl doesn't fit in as much, but I think the younger the younger I was, it was easier, and we kind of stayed put in high school. So that made it a little bit easier for me.
Yeah. So what were your aspirations at that time when you were thinking about when people started to ask you in high school, what do you want to be when you grow up? Um, what was your
Well,
answer?
I went back and forth, but I think the main thing that I loved medicine. And I always thought I wanted to be a doctor. And I would watch all of these shows on surgeries and, ER, and love that kind of stuff. Didn't end up going anywhere near medicine, but,
Yeah.
that was what I always thought that I wanted to do.
Yeah. And then so tell me, can you take me from, you said you married young, right? Out of school. And I know that, a big part of your story and what I think is so impressive is um, well, first you decided, we'll start when you were working as a receptionist and decided for extra income that you were going to clean the office building.
Right.
So you're working all day and then you're going to do this at night. And so that's That's a lot to take on. And then I want to start with what's prompted the moment. What was the aha moment where you thought, gosh, I can turn this into a business?
I think that initially I thought, this is a piece of cake, cleaning. I mean, how hard is this, right? I'll clean an office at night. I work here all day and I'll just change into my clothes and clean an office at night. I thought that it was a piece of cake. Didn't really think about the long nights that it was going to take. And, I would change my clothes at 5 o'clock, get in my jeans and t-shirt and start cleaning the building. Then I would work until 10, 11 o'clock at night. And this was every night.
Wow.
And
How many floors, Cheryl, were in that
four,
building?
4 floors plus a basement that was a partial office as well. So almost 5 floors that I was cleaning every night. And you just don't realize the manual labor and how exhausted you are at the end of the night. It really helps me appreciate the employees that work for me and what they do, because so many of my employees will work full-time jobs during the day and then clean all night, or they're full-time for me during the day, cleaning as well. And it's exhausting. And a lot of the people that work for me, they're not doing it for fancy dinners or vacations or cars or whatnot. They're doing it to put food on the table and to put kids through college and to make ends meet. And so you realize once you've done it yourself, how difficult it is and how exhausting. It doesn't matter whether you're young. I was young at the time when I first started. Um, so, I had an energy and, didn't have all the aches and pains that come later in life, but it is exhausting, and I
Yeah.
really, I feel for people that do this all day long.
So, you stuck with it. So it,
Mhm.
it was hard. And I just want to know the moment. I think, did you start to hire people to help?
So I think that aha moment was, when I started to see the difference of it was making in the building when the complaints weren't happening anymore, because I would take the complaints all day long when I was answering phone from the other tenants in the building, complaining about the cleaning of the building. And that's when I went to the two owners and I said, let me clean the building every night for you. You'll never have any complaints. And I'll do a good job. And they said, as long as you don't let it interfere with your day job, we're happy to let you do it.
Did you set the price? Did you say, I'll do it for this much?
I
Or did
said,
they
pay
say,
me what I held their invoice in my hand. I said, pay me what you pay them. And
oh, okay.
in this
Yeah.
building every night. And they
Yeah.
said, okay. And I said, you won't have any complaints. And I joke a lot of times when I'm speaking to women, I always say, plus I was the one taking the phone calls every day. So I was pretty sure they weren't going to hear the complaints. But,
Right. Right.
but I think it was when I started to really notice, wow, I can make a business of this. And although it's manual labor and it's hard work, I saw the difference that I could make in an office and I enjoyed it. And I thought, I really, really like this. And some friends would say, hey, you might want to come clean our building. It's filthy. And so I started getting some referrals. And that's when it kind of was that
Oh,
aha moment
wonderful.
for me that, well, I could get some employees and I could build on this. And
Yeah.
it was at that moment that I realized I could probably do this. And I was not happy in the job that I was in at the time. And, I was looking for some sort of career at that point.
Okay. Wow. So, you also shared with me, you started to have success as an entrepreneur, and then you got divorced,
Yeah.
and you had two children, I believe, right? So now you're building a company really alone as a single mom. And I'll also add, I know that one of your daughters has had some health issues. So to me, when I think about that, I'm thinking I'd be scared. I would have a lot of fear. Um, what are you saying to yourself at that time that kept you going and kept you going? Because I want our listeners and viewers to understand what you have today is a company with 550 employees servicing over 20 states. Am I correct?
Well, we're up over 1,000 employees now,
Oh my
and
God.
we're in 20
Okay.
24 states. So,
Wow. Yeah.
yes.
Okay, so I'm jumping ahead, but I want people
Right.
to understand when
Yeah,
I ask you that question about fear, I think it's one of the greatest things that would hold a man or a woman back, right? From leaving something that's secure to starting their own.
sure. I think there was more of a fear of failure than there was a fear of going out and getting and doing it. Once I started and once I had employees working for me and I was earning an income, and granted, it wasn't that much at the time, but it was replacing, little by little, I was replacing what I was making at my other job. And I think fear drove me to succeed more than it did to go out and attempt to do it. I did not feel like failure was an option. I knew that people were counting on me, and I knew that I could not fail the families that worked for me as well. Plus, I had children that I had to take care of, and as a single mother, I didn't have a career to fall back on. There was no other option. So I was driven to succeed no matter what. I didn't look at it as an option to fail. And my daughter's medical problems started from the minute she was born. Probably I would say within the first month. So for quite a while, in the first 5 years of her life, we had a lot of surgeries, a lot of doctors, and I was trying to balance that career and my job along with taking her to all of her medical appointments and the surgeries and the physical therapy and all the things that came along with the issues that she had. So I was trying to do both at one time. And I'm not going to say that, did the business suffer sometimes because I couldn't give it 100% that I wanted to at the time. Yes, absolutely. But at the time, my daughter needed my attention and I needed to focus on the problems that she had. But I always had that sense that, especially when I was going through the divorce, I don't have another income. I don't have a spouse's income. I have two children. One's in college, one's in junior high at the time. My daughter was. She still had medical issues that needed attention. I still needed to have health insurance and to be able to provide for my children, and a lot of families that were working for me. So I couldn't fail.
So you were just doing what was necessary at the
Absolutely.
time,
What
right?
was necessary.
What was necessary. Was there any part of you that wanted to prove to yourself that you could be successful? That came from any, self doubt, or was it all about really taking care of the people in your family?
I think there's some truth to that you want to prove to yourself that you can do it. I remember in high school, and teachers are so influential in students' lives, and I can't emphasize that enough. And I come from a family of educators. My mother was an educator. My sister was an educator. My brother was he was an athletic director of school and a coach. So these are people that really influence lives. But I remember when I was in high school, my senior year, our teacher, homeroom teacher, said, I want a show of hands of everyone who's going to college. Most of the class raised their hand and was going to college. And I was engaged. I had gotten engaged over Christmas, my senior year. So I told you I was very young, and that's not normal these days. But my husband at the time was someone that I knew since I was 10 years old, and he had to move because of his job. So we were getting married very quickly right after high school. But she said, I want a show of hands of everyone who is going off to college. And most of the class raised their hand. She said, okay, for a couple of you that are going into the military, give me a show of hands. And there were a couple that were going straight into the military. And then she said, oh, for you, there were two of us that had gotten engaged. She said, for the two of you that are getting married, she goes, well, never mind. You'll be working the rest of your life. And
Oh my gosh.
and she really
Wow.
humiliated us in front of the
Wow. That's
class.
an awful, awful teacher.
Yes, and she embarrassed us, and I remember sitting there thinking, "Wow," she's basically indicating that we're not going to succeed at anything because we're going to get married right out of high school. And, I was, yes, I was young. I was, but I was still a hard worker. I worked hard at everything I did.
Yeah.
My parents taught me to give everything 100%, no matter what you do. So I wasn't lazy. Like
Yeah.
she kind of indicated that we would not be successful for the rest of our lives. So that always was in the back of my mind.
Mm,
That did stick out to me that I didn't need to go prove it to her, but I needed to prove it to myself as well.
yeah. Yeah. Gosh, is she still around?
I don't know. I don't know, and I'm not sure if she's still a teacher in education.
Yeah.
You
She should know what happened with you because we all know that success is not based solely on a job that's outside of motherhood or family or so you did family first and now you have a professional career. It doesn't matter which order,
right.
right?
And,
Yeah.
with women, I think sometimes we balance that. There are times, and I say this all the time, that, my journey has been more like a lattice. There is not a ladder to success. I don't believe it exists. And especially, it is a little tougher for women. Sometimes in my life, I had to kind of go to the side. And the reason I liken it to a lattice is because I had to kind of go to the side, and sometimes you take a step down because maybe you're caring for a child, a sick child, or you're having a family, or you're taking care of a sick parent, or you're going through some a divorce or something in your life, sickness, and maybe you're not getting there as fast as you would like to in your career, or getting to where you think you should be in your career. But sometimes it takes a little bit longer. And did I go at the pace that I thought I would be? Am I where I thought I should be at this point in my career? Not necessarily. In my mind, I should be so much further ahead. But at the same time, I did take care of what was priority at the time, and the things that were important and needed my attention. So I'm okay
Yeah,
with
I love that visual that
that.
because it's society that talks about the ladder, but we
Right.
all know, the journey is not at all like that. So that's a wonderful visual, as a reminder. Listen, we're going to go into our first break, and when we come back, I want to talk to you about how you find as an entrepreneur the ability to hire then um, a team member when perhaps the money's not quite there yet. So that's a tough place to be. Stay with us for our watch team, and we'll be back with Cheryl Ecton.
Hi, my name is Christy McCaffrey, and I'm the founder and owner of Be the Good Media. Today, I'm here to share some good news with you. I wanted to share with you about a guest I had on my podcast named Julie Anderson. Julie is the CEO of a global organization called Plastic Oceans International. This organization's goal is to end plastic pollution and to foster sustainable communities worldwide. What inspired me most about my conversation with Julie is that she really leads from a place of her own passion to support environmental and human health and her love for the ocean. There's nothing more inspiring to me than to see a woman at the head of an organization doing something that she's just so passionate about, and they're clearly making a difference globally. To hear more of our conversation, you can visit bethegoodmedia.com. And there you'll also learn more about how Be the Good Media works to amplify impact-driven missions and causes. Again, I'm Christy McCaffrey. Listen here for more good news on Women to Watch.
Hi, I'm Dawn Zier, CEO, Board Director, and Executive Mentor to Fortune 500 executives through my work at the Exco Group, a firm of experienced CEOs, board directors, and global business leaders who offer real-world experience to help organizations and senior executives grow. Today on Leadership Watch, we're going to talk about the importance of being purposefully intentional. A career is not a straight line, but each stop along the way should be well thought out and provide a path for future opportunities. Here are 4 ways to be intentional about your career. 1. Tell your story. Create your elevator speech, practice it, and be ready to share it. It's much more memorable and effective than just listing off your accomplishments one by one. 2. Develop your personal brand and know what you stand for. Jeff Bezos once said, "Your brand is what other people say about you when you're not in the room." Your personal brand encompasses your core values, how you show up, the way you treat others, your online presence, and the list goes on and on. Think about what you want to be known for, be intentional in how you present yourself, and figure out what makes you unique. 3. Be intentional with your career moves. A career is not always about moving up. A lot can be learned from lateral moves, but have a clear reason and objective for each move you make. And finally, be direct with your communication. Know your desired outcome when having those important conversations and be deliberate with your messaging. Be intentional around the position you're taking, communicate the why, seek buy-in, and remember that how you get things done really does matter. Please follow me on LinkedIn at Dawn Zier. Also, if you're a senior executive looking to grow in your career, visit excoleadership.com.
Welcome back to the show. I'm joined this week by Cheryl Ecton, and Cheryl is the founder and CEO of Elite Building Services, which is a commercial building maintenance company. Very successful, and her story is one of true, coming from one place, continuing to do what's necessary, and then really having great success today. So when I think about small businesses, and you're doing it all yourself, and you are just, wearing all the hats, and then you suddenly understand that in order to go to another level, you're going to have to bring on another team member. And I think I read in another interview you hired a CFO at a time when, you perhaps didn't want to give up any control of what was happening. So how does someone find the ability to do that when perhaps, there's not quite a budget yet to hire another executive, but you know that it's necessary?
Well, I think we got to a point in our company, and I was doing a lot of the bookkeeping myself, and I'm not a bookkeeper. And when we got to the size that we first initially hired a controller, and now we do have a CFO and a controller as well, and a whole finance department. But I think you have to really look at what is best for the company. And a lot of times these positions will pay for themselves by doing things better, more efficient, the right way, being able to control things more so. A lot of times these positions will end up paying for themselves and making and freeing up your time to go focus on the business. So, some of the work that I was doing that I'm not great at, by hiring the right people in those positions, it kind of alleviated my time from that and allowed me to focus on what I am good at and what I needed to do to build the business and to move it into the next level. So I think sometimes you have to take a look at it and understand what you cannot do well and what's not your core business strength, and look for those right people to fit those positions, because a lot of times they do pay for themselves. It is very difficult when you're starting out and you really truly don't have the money to hire for positions that you really truly need. And I think initially when we hired an operations manager, that was the first big step. I was doing everything: the hiring, the firing, the interviewing of employees, and I was doing the payroll, and I was doing the bookkeeping, and I was checking the jobs. And when you're spreading yourself that thin, are you really doing everything great? So are you doing your business a disservice by trying to control and handle everything, and had to learn how to let go?
Right, right. You're obviously in a very heavily male-dominated industry. Can you talk? And I'm assuming you've had some pushback or experiences where you were perceived as not as capable. Um, can you talk about that and share, what that experience has been like and how you managed to deal with those instances?
I think early on when I started my career, I noticed it was a lot more male dominated. It still is more male dominated, but there are more women coming into the commercial janitorial side. There's a lot of women that own residential house cleaning services, but on the commercial side, it's still more male dominated. I think in the beginning, when I first started, I felt as though I was in a room by myself or on an island by myself. That you would go to bidders meetings and you would see a lot of men that would show up at these meetings or to meet with the clients. And I think that for me, learning as much as I could about the industry, understanding the industry, and becoming an expert at what I do and what we do gave me a little bit more credibility. And once I think people saw, oh, she does know what she's talking about. Oh, she does understand this industry and our business and what we need. And then you're taken more seriously. But it's getting better. And a lot of the clients that I see now, they have a lot of women in positions of facility managers where that was a lot more male dominated
Right.
in the past.
Yes.
So you're seeing a lot more women coming into being facility managers and so it's not as bad as it was. It's still more of a male dominated industry, but not to the extent that it was even 35 years ago.
Yeah, that's good. That's good to hear. I know that it's very important for you to not only treat your clients well, but your employees. You talk a lot about, wanting to take care of them. What kind of things do you do internally for them to see the value that they have and truly being a part of the company and not just an employee?
Well, years ago, I was part of a peer group, and they really talked and focused a lot about your culture and the culture that you have and your core values and what your core values are and how you run your company. And a company's core values need to come from the owner. They need to be the company's the CEO's, the owner's core values. And you need to establish those very early on so that when you're looking for people that fit the culture too, that understand the culture, that have the same values and the same goals that you have, and try to make sure that it is a good fit, because I think that's really critical and that's really important, to make sure that you're aligned. And we often say that the core values are kind of like bumper rails, and when somebody doesn't fit into your culture, they don't possess the same core values as you do, you'll see them bump up against those guardrails very quickly, and it will become very obvious that they're not a good fit. But so culture is extremely important. It's important that they share those same core values that I do, that as we make decisions in the company, we all make decisions operating based off our core values and how we do things. But it's important to me that, especially in the field that we're in, a lot of times janitors aren't looked upon in a favorable way. COVID changed that a lot because, we were essential, and people really started to see the value of the cleaning people that were out there and started to really appreciate the cleaners. Um, I think that, by making sure that we take care of our employees, and there's so many ways. I mean, you it's hard to pay cleaners a lot of money. I mean, we're on the lower end of the workforce in terms of what we can pay, but we do try to pay better than most people out there, and try to pay what we can to the employees to show the value. But we also there's a lot of other things that we do to try to make them feel part of the company, and a lot of that is just communication, keeping them informed, training so that they feel like we care, that their value, we want to make sure they know what they're doing out there, that they're doing it in a safe way, that we care about their health and safety. We do newsletters. We try to keep in touch with our employees because we're spread out in a lot of different states. We're in 24 states, so we don't see all of our employees all the time, and in our corporate office in Delaware. So we try to keep them very involved in the company.
How many, I'll say managers, I'm assuming there's different managers for different areas. How many do you have leading the team of 1,000?
We have managers in every state that we're in. Um,
Okay.
and in some states, multiple. We obviously we have a whole operations department that's led by a senior director of operations and a director of operations, and they lead all the operations teams. So in every state, we have managers that we're in, and sometimes multiple people there.
Can you tell me do you have a vision for this company? Do you have goals and dreams and plans for it to continue to grow and become much bigger?
Oh yeah. So our organic growth has always, and we that's how we've always grown, is through organic growth. But part of our strategy for growth and expansion is through acquisitions. So we're starting to dip our feet in the pool, so to speak, and look at acquisitions and grow that way as well. Also look at
Wow.
acquisitions in other types of services that might be a complement to our core business as well.
Yeah. Now, if that happens, that's going to open up a lot of new doors for you and allow you the opportunity to perhaps focus on things that are near and dear to your heart outside of the company itself. Can you talk about any of those?
There's several things that we're involved in with different charities. American Heart Association, we've been involved in the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. I chaired Light the Night for a couple of years in a row, and we're always looking at ways to give back. We've been able to do that through walks and getting involved with the American Heart Association. So we try to involve our employees in that as well. But I do enjoy that. I really do enjoy getting involved with the charities that we are involved with now.
Cheryl, tell me about you. You have a daughter and a son. And I always love to ask mothers, two questions. What do they worry most about for their kids today and the type of client and culture that we live in? And then in your conversations with them, what do you say um, so that they will know to follow their own path as you have done and really believe in themselves?
Well, I try to get them to follow their own path and I remember having these conversations with my son. He wanted to go into international business, and he studied abroad for a little while and went off to college down in Florida. And he called me one day and he said, Mom, I want to come home and work for you. And I said, You don't need to do that. I said, I want you to do what you want to do. Go do what you want to do. Cleaning is not you know, at the time I said, I'm sure that's not what you want to do in life. And he said, No, I really, really want to come back and work with you. And I said,
Wow.
Okay. So he came back to work. After college, he came back and worked for me. And, he had been working for me since he was a teenager. I would put him to work during the summers and give him the worst jobs possible so that he could really see what it was like. And,
Right.
so he did everything. He learned at a very young age to strip and wax floors. And, I would have him walking
That's
up
good
and down.
parenting. That's
Yeah,
really good. Yeah.
I would have him. I remember one summer job I gave him, he got to clean the stairwells of a 14-story building. So all
Oh
night
my
he was walking
gosh.
up and down, vacuuming stairwells. And I
Yeah.
know that wasn't very fun, but it was interesting because at the time, he came home one night and he was appalled. He said, he was working with another young kid that was helping out that night, and the kid said, if we skipped every other step, we could finish this much earlier and get out of here. And he looked at the kid and he said, Do you know who my mom is? And he said, She owns the company. He goes, If we do that, it's gonna, she's gonna get complaints. He goes,
Oh my gosh.
we can't clean like that. So I
Yeah.
was glad to
Did this
see that.
kid know that his mom was the owner?
I don't know if the kid didn't know and just thought, hey, let's get out of here faster and let's skip some steps. And my son really quickly told him we weren't going to do that. That affected my company. So, but I had given him a lot of jobs like that over the years, and really wanted to show him what this field was like, and he still wanted to come back and work for me. And he's one of my executive directors now. He works very closely next to me. He's really done every kind of job out there. I sent him, um, he would go away during the week and go on construction sites for weeks at a time and months and come home. And so he got to learn every aspect of business. And now he's working side by side with me. My
That's
daughter, when
so
she,
nice.
yeah,
That's so nice. Yeah, I mean, what a testament to you that your son would call you and say, "I wanna come work with you." You
yeah, I
know?
really strongly tried to discourage him against
Yeah.
that because I really wanted him to, not that I don't love what I do. I do love what I do, but sometimes it's like, well, I know it's not everybody's dream. Like, everybody always says to me, "How in the world did you get into cleaning?" And
Well, cleaning itself is not perhaps exciting, but the
right.
running of the company, starting and building a company and, employing people and all of that, I think that's probably been exciting
And he
for
enjoys
you.
that.
And yeah,
He loves that as well.
yeah.
And my daughter, when she finished school, I mean, she really was good with the numbers. And so she ended up coming back and she works in our finance department, and
Oh,
she's
wow.
happy with that. She loves that. She loves what she
Yeah.
does. And so she works for me as well. So both of them are back in the business, and it's become a family
It's a
business.
family affair. Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so nice. Well, I just want to, leave. I always like to leave our listeners and viewers with some kind of advice, something that really has been impactful for you. If there's a woman listening who's perhaps thinking about leaving a corporate job and starting her own, what would you? What comes to your mind is your greatest lesson, and perhaps it came from a failure. So, where sometime you may have made a mistake in a decision, and that was one of your greatest lessons.
I think if you're a woman and you want to step out there and start your own business, and I think you should just not look at others and the pace that they're going. And I tell women all the time when I speak to them at conferences, this is your own race. um, make your own decisions. If there are times that you need to focus on your family or a child or marriage or divorce or whatever that might be, um, do it. Do what you need to do. And I think sometimes when you start putting the focus on how others are achieving, you kind of take your eyes off of yourself and what you can accomplish. Some of my greatest lessons were from failures, and uh, I just tell everybody, fail fast. Get back up there. Don't give up. Don't ever give up. If it's your dream and it's something that you want to do, doesn't matter how long it takes you, and don't look at others to see where they are. I really tried to just say, you know what, this is my life. Nobody's in my shoes. I'm dealing with a sick child. Then I went into dealing with a divorce. And these were things that kind of sidelined me for a while, but I never gave up. And so that's probably my strongest message to women is not to give up. Keep going. If that's your dream, do it.
Yeah, and you're so right about comparing. Comparing ourselves to others is the worst thing to do. That will kind of hold you back.
That's right. We're already hard on ourselves anyway, right?
Yes,
We
right.
don't need to start comparing ourselves to others.
No, it's the worst. And I think we do less of that the older we get.
Right.
The more confidence you have
Sure.
in your abilities. So your story is a great inspiration, Cheryl. And I thank you so much for taking time to be on the show.
Thank you, Susan. I appreciate it.
Stay with us for another Watch Team segment, and I'll be back to close out the show.
We are CHOP, and we can't wait to show you around. We're the nation's first children's hospital. Now, a care network with more than 50 locations that continues to expand. 3 state-of-the-art research buildings with 1.5 million square feet of space. We have grown from 12 beds 165 years ago to nearly 600 beds and one of the best children's hospitals in the world. We have a level 1 trauma center, 11 floors of patient units, more than 20 operating rooms, first of its kind delivery unit for babies with birth defects, a separate cardiac operative and catheterization suite, and places to learn, like our internationally recognized simulation center. We have trained generations of leaders in the field of pediatrics. We are world leaders in medicine, surgery, and science. One of the top recipients in NIH funding for pediatric research. In this building, pioneers in CAR T therapy, mitochondrial disease, brain tumors, hyperinsulinism, and other rare diseases. Here, groundbreaking work in fetal surgery, genetics and genomics, and neurology. In our newest building, leaders in social determinants of health, clinical informatics and epidemiology, autism, trauma and injury prevention. Our patients come from every state and 115 countries. Meeting these challenges requires the best and the brightest. We are passionate about pediatrics. We are motivated to make a difference in the world and in our community. We are a team. We are CHOP.
That's it, everyone, for another week of Women to Watch. Thanks for joining me. Next week, I'll be speaking with Kelly Hoey. And Kelly is an author, a speaker, and an executive coach. Thank you, as always, to our sponsors and watch team of corporate partners. And I hope you have a great week.